Hi everyone. Okay, so today we're looking at how to describe climate through data given to you and through this special graph called climographs. Okay, looks like a long word, right? Well, it is just two parts of the word, graph and climo. Okay, so climographs is a kind of graph, okay, that wants to show the climate of a place. Okay, hence they are called climograph. Alright, now what is a climate? Climate refers to the long-term weather patterns of a place. So we are not looking at one day, we are not looking at we're not looking at 1 month, we're not looking at 1 day, we're not looking at 5 hours, we're not looking at 1 year, we are looking at, over 30 years, alright, many years, okay? What is the pattern like? Alright, when is it generally hot? Is it generally cold? Is it hotter in some months, colder in some months? Okay, so we look at the temperature pattern. We also look at the rainfall pattern. Okay, so as you can see, climographs. So since climograph is to show, so if climate is about rainfall and temperature pattern, then climographs is about trying to show the rainfall and the temperature patterns. Okay, and you try to show it how it looks like within a typical year. That means for most years it would be something like that. Okay, now why do we need to use climograph? Why do we use data? Why can't we just say hot and cold? Okay, well, you see there's very diverse climates in the world. You have already learned the kind that supports the savanna desert, okay, savanna forest, and then there's the tropical rainforest that you have learned, okay, and then you have Singapore's climate, and then you have super hot climate like the one in the Sahara desert, okay, and yet you can have super cold climates like what you see in the coniferous, and also this desert. This is actually a cold desert, okay, called tundra. Okay, it's just that there's a lot of grass and moss on the ground. Okay, so there's so many different kinds of climates in the world. We need to show it in a way such that it is easy for people to compare and see the patterns. Okay, and hence there's climograph, and hence we then describe so that we can tell people what the climate looks like. Okay, so today your main goal is just to be able to describe the climate when I give you the data or a climograph of the place. Okay, now let's take a look at climograph. So what are the parts of a climograph? As you can see, there is this is representing a climate of a country called climate country A. Okay, now you can see at the bottom axis, we call this the x-axis. Okay, so you see JFMAMJJASON. Wow, what is this code word? Well, this is actually the months of a year. Okay, so J for January, this is the reading for January, F for February, M for March, A for April, M for May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay, now you see two y-axis, the vertical axis over here. One is to represent precipitation, which is your rainfall or snow, and then one is for your temperature. Okay, so how do we show two things on one graph? Well, we have two axes and we use two kinds of graphs. Okay, so the line here represents the temperature, which we will read with this y-axis on the right, and the bar represents the total amount of rain or total amount of precipitation in this place for each month. Okay, and how do we read it? We use the axis on the left. Alright, so what are the things that we need to think about? Firstly, rainfall. Okay, what graph do we use? Just now, as I mentioned, we use a bar graph. Oops, bar graph. Okay, what does it represent? It represents the total rainfall in the month. That means the total amount of water the place receives. Okay, and we read it from the y-axis. All right, and then of course the other graph, which is the one that represents temperature. Okay, as I've talked to you about, it is the line graph. Okay, and it represents the average temperature in the month. So basically they take the temperature of every single day in the month and they average it. Okay, so this is roughly the average temperature for the whole every single day in the month. Okay, and we also read it from the y-axis. All right, and lastly, the x-axis, as we have mentioned before, it is referring to the months in a year. Example, what the months? Well, January, as we mentioned, February, March, etc., etc. Okay, so you roughly know how to read a graph, a climate graph, and what it represents already.